So India meets Britain. India meets Britain 2022. What do the numbers behind the headlines tell us now? And this is all based on this wonderful report that Grant Thornton produces every year. It's called the India Meets Britain Tracker Report, and it's produced by Grant Thornton in collaboration with the Confederation of Indian Industry. And it's actually in its 9th year, and it's a wonderful barometer of Indian investments, the footprint of Indian investments in the UK. So if you're looking to sort of take the pulse of Indian businesses in the UK, this is the report to read. We should have had a copy, shouldn't we, Anuj, just to show it up. But anyway, there it is. Come on, let's get it out. Let's get it out. There you go. India Meets Britain Tracker. I do recommend you read it. Absolutely fascinating. I've got a summary right in front of me. I'll just put it there. So I've got too many notes in front of me. So Anuj Chande, partner, head of South Asia Group at Grant Thornton, is representing Grant Thornton. Then we have the business side. So it's sort of Grant Thornton businesses trade. Those are the three legs of the stool. We're going to try and get an argument between them all. So we've got Anuj, Anupam Mathur, CEO of Insync Bikes. Looking forward to chatting to you as well. Then we've got Venugopalan Muralidharan, who's from president of Aurobindo Pharma. Murali, great to see you as well. Sally Ronald, Deputy Director of Investor Relations at Department of International Trade, and Simon Arora, Chair of the Manchester-India Partnership. So if we could start with you, Anuj, tell us a bit about this report, because you've been there since the beginning, haven't you? Since its birth, since its inception. So just give us a sense of some of the trends that you've observed over those years.
Absolutely, and I think just to mention about the sort of genesis of this report, for many, many years, people used to talk about Indian investment in the UK. It was growing, it was moving, but there was no statistics, no facts or figures. So actually in 2014, I came up with this idea of creating this report and with CII, in collaboration with CII as our branding partner. This was the first time that there had been some actually facts and figures on Indian investment in the UK. So in 2014, when we did the report, there were 700 Indian companies in the UK with a combined turnover of 19 billion. Our latest report, which you've got there, now we have 900 Indian companies in the UK with a combined turnover of 54.4 billion. And if you look at the employment footprint, because we also look at that, the employment footprint back in 2014 was 100,000. In the latest report, 141,000. And over the years, over that 9-year period, we have seen continuous growth. One other thing that I would like to mention is that the size of the Indian companies has increased over that period. I think the other thing is that and I'm sure Simon will pick it up, in terms of regional representation, we have seen a shift. Whilst London has dominated the fast-growing tracker report, for the first time this year, the regions actually had more fast-growing companies in the tracker than London. And I think the final thing I would just say is that in terms of diversity, we have seen an increase in terms of women representation on the boards of Indian subsidiaries in the UK.
So encouraging all round. Yeah. Anupam, let's hear from you. From a business perspective, what's success? What's been your success mantra for the UK growth story?
I think we came with an acquisition in UK, and one of the big successes for us is understanding the culture. And what kind of helped us understand was the local staff we had, and there was a lot of cross-seeding of ideas and innovations, and which have kind of helped us succeed very fast.
Yeah, how easy was it to understand the culture, Murali?
Yeah, first of all, Mark, thank you very much for spelling or pronouncing my name fully, which many find it rather difficult. Yeah, coming to the point by itself, yes, the culture of UK, which has been which embraces rather readily, and for any Indian setup or an organization, the gateway to continental Europe also used to be into UK because of the language, the cultural background, and the diversities. And the process that triggered us for us to enter the UK market way back in 2006.
Yeah, and we've heard about maybe the assistant Sally that could and is given to companies like the ones we're sitting next to. Give us an idea of that support and assistance that's available to Indian investors, Indian companies looking to come to the UK.
Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. First thing I'd like to say, I know it's been said already, but it is an incredibly important relationship that between the UK and India, and you can see that underlined in recent commercial announcements of £1 billion under supporting a huge number of jobs. My department, DIT, is the focal point for investor support, working across Whitehall. If you look at the investor journey, we're set up to support right across that. So for companies who are thinking about choosing the UK, for those who are established here and are getting up and running, and for those existing investors who are wanting to expand. The sorts of things that we do are very practical. We can explain the business environment, we can give practical, detailed financial information, market insights, really to show how the UK's commercial viability stacks up against other international markets. So really helpful things like advice on regulation, tax, visas and access to finance. And then finally, another role we play, really important, is we take the voice of the investor into Whitehall to aid with policy making.
How does our commercial viability stack up against other markets? Because you mentioned it, let's ask you that question.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah.
The numbers of Indian investors who chose the UK last year increased, 107 projects that DIT supported. There are many others, of course, that DIT doesn't work with, where the market takes care of itself. An example to demonstrate the attractions of the UK that I might point to would be Tech Mahindra in Simon's neck of the woods, who have set up a new site in Salford. We provided support with helping on the location, access to apprenticeships, so that talent piece that's really important that we've talked about in terms of skills, and introductions to local universities, fabulous higher education in Manchester, and introductions to local authorities. So that's just one example of where the UK commercial environment really stacked up very well.
Everyone seems to be looking at you, Simon, the Manchester angle. Give us a sense of India and Manchester, how close that relationship is, that regional relationship.
So our region mayor, Andy Burnham, sees it as hugely important strategically. I'm chairing the Manchester-India Partnership, which alongside the Manchester-China Forum are the two key areas of focus for the Manchester Inward Development Agency. And for us, it's all about playing to our strengths. We've got a great talent pool, we've got good connectivity with the airport and in the long-term HS2, but most importantly also quality of life for people who are working in those businesses, and whether that's the house prices, whether it's the cultural and sporting strengths that Manchester has, be that temples, gurdwaras, mosques, or obviously our great world-class sporting institutions. It's a great place to come, work, live and play.
Yeah, it certainly is. And Anuj, a lot of this has been done organically, some of it's been done through acquisitions. What's the organic acquisitions ratio? How much of the growth, according to your report, of Indian companies is dependent on acquisitions?
I think it's a bit of a balance, and it does vary from year to year. And for example, if you take this year's report, the fastest growing company there, Motherson Sumi Systems, with a 248% growth, that was entirely from an acquisition that they did.
Yeah.
Insync Bikes as well, again, is on the list. Again, that's an acquisition. But having said that, we have seen over the years there is quite a significant element which is due purely to organic growth. And the other thing we've seen is that there are many companies that consistently are growing at more than 10%. 10% is our
that's the sort of the level, isn't it? The
benchmark,
benchmark, yeah. There's some stats are absolutely incredible. 37 companies met the qualifying criteria this year. The average growth rate amongst those was 38%. Fastest growing companies, MSSL, 248%. Yeah. Prodapt, 114. Route Mobile, 98%. I mean, that is some growth, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And that's happened during recessionary times. It's happened
COVID.
Despite exactly.
Well, what was
COVID,
the impact of
Brexit,
COVID?
There was actually not
Why not?
significant impact. It was. I think it's maybe the markets in which some of these businesses operate.
Yeah.
So like Pharma, which is obviously represented here.
Yeah.
That's been very successful in this period. They had their own challenges and issues, but generally speaking, it's done very well.
Let's talk about those, Murali, those challenges and issues. What challenges and
Sure,
issues
Mark. I
have
can
you
pick
faced?
up the thread. Yes.
Yeah.
See, in the previous sessions, we did touch upon the COVID and the challenges and the complexities and the role of healthcare companies, the vaccine researchers and PPE kit producers. But the role of generic pharmaceutical industry, whom I represent, also has played a very, very vital role, whether it is continuity of supplies of the regular chronic care medicaments and also the critical care items which are being supplied to NHS on a regular basis. And during the COVID period, there were several products which were requested or demanded on a pronto basis, and even we in Aurobindo also contributed to that. Of course, we had to bid and win and supply on time and do the stockpiling. So like this, a range of complexities were also overcome, because the COVID also brought in several other challenges like the imports of raw materials or the workforce in the shop floor were not available in sufficient numbers, and then of course the exports and the freight challenges, driver strikes.
So that was COVID related, so supply chain issues.
Yeah.
Have those been overcome, given that supply chain issues are still very much present, a lot of it, because of
yeah, it has taken a different dimension
Yeah.
now due to, again, the starting point was that where the container movement and availability were impacted. Then we felt driver shortage, Brexit related importation delays, and even today due to the geopolitical situation, more challenges are seen with the increasing energy costs and fuel
Murali,
prices.
get political for me. Brexit, you mentioned it. I mean, we've had the Trade Secretary, we've had the Home Secretary. I mean, the Trade Secretary obviously spoke a positive narrative. She said, oh, this isn't the country I recognize, when I talked about 11% inflation coming, negative growth, a plunging sterling. The economic and market backdrop isn't exactly positive. What does Brexit mean for your company and your industry?
Sure. I do not want to go into the political justification whether Brexit is the right thing for UK or not,
Yeah.
but it is here.
But on the ground,
It's
what's
here
been the impact?
and it is done and dusted. It is the 31st Jan 2021, we are well and truly out. But at the same time, it has thrown some challenges. As I said, it required a lot of stockpiling as advised by NHS. All the drug makers were asked to pile more products. But that is leading us to some products like the product shelf life being lost in the process, companies tending to throw the product at a dirt price and things like that. But this is a natural phenomenon for the UK market. But at the same time, within Brexit, certain other challenges we have started facing, but we are successfully overcoming that, because as I was mentioning to you, UK was considered as the gateway for continental Europe. Even today, for Aurobindo Milform, UK is the headquarters of our European operations. So I am still operating from the UK. So for us, it is still UK is the ground. But in terms of product registration, earlier it used to be one procedure addressing multiple markets, but now we need to do a national filing in UK and a procedural filing for rest of Europe. Similarly, certain data generation, bioequivalence or dissolution studies, we may have to generate more additional data. Like this, if I go deeper, it may be a little boring, but at the same time, there are these challenges that came out of Brexit, but we have found a way to overcome that. But all these comes at a cost.
We're not seeing it as an obstacle. So right now, for the Manchester region, we have something like 49 projects that we're working on of inward investment from India. We're cautiously optimistic that a good dozen of those will come off, hundreds of jobs will be created. So I think there's plenty of reasons to be optimistic.
Yeah.
And
Brexit isn't an obstacle.
It isn't, and Manchester region certainly is open for business.
Yeah.
It is absolutely. Means, as the popular saying goes, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So it was a challenge thrown at us, but we have risen up to that.
Anupam, what about your challenges and the solutions that you've put forward to overcome them in the recent years, these very challenging years that we've all had to experience?
So I think during the COVID times were challenging for all, but in one way, a lot of people embraced health as one of the big things in the last 2 years. And because of the health, the bike industry kind of shot through the roof. We've seen some phenomenal growth. The market is expanded close to 3.2 billion. The e-bike has seen some significant 30% growth. The e-bike stands at 16% of the total market. So these are two segments or legs which kind of grew right off the roof, right? So, and we were worried that post COVID, the sales will kind of drop. So it has kind of normalized, but it's not gone down. Still, the markets are pegging at around 2.8 billion in terms of value and 2.6 in terms of volumes. E-bikes still have done phenomenally well, and we see significant growth coming in the next few years.
Peloton's had a few problems, hasn't it? I know you're not Peloton, but it's always in the news, the share prices, I mean.
Yeah, it's also about how you're kind of stacked up from the back end. We are very strong manufacturers. We own the entire value chain. So we kind of figure out in which markets and how to proceed and which are the strong areas to kind of work on. So we are in a good shape.
Yeah. Sally, what more can we do to attract more Indian investment into the UK? Message to Trade Secretary Trevelyan. What would you say to her?
Well, I would point to more can be done to capitalise on some really great bodies that exist to work at that public-private sector interface. So if you think about Homes England, great balance sheet, really expert people who can help businesses understand the environment and build the homes that we need in the UK, and also the UK Infrastructure Bank, based in Leeds, another great city. They've got £22 billion to help catalyse net zero, levelling up, improving connectivity, all of those things that really drive investment.
How often do you get to speak to the Trade Secretary?
I was with her yesterday.
Were you good? Yeah.
Yes.
You spend a lot of time together.
Well, she has a very big portfolio.
Yes.
So she covers investment and trade agreements. So yeah, I mean, there are many officials who work really hard to support her with her very big portfolio.
Yes, and she's working very hard, of course, to reach this FTA. Talk about the regions. Simon, how do the regions compete, and how do you gain an upper hand against some of the other regions which are trying to attract that inward investment?
Absolutely. So I think the message really is come to us and we will support you evaluate the opportunity. The support we give is free. It's confidential and it's tailored to your business and your sector. And for us, the secret to being successful on this whole opportunity is focusing on the right areas. So we're not trying to be all things to all people, but we're clearly, as a region, focused on life sciences, pharma, the Internet of Things, AI, advanced manufacturing, sustainability, etc. So you set out your stall to where you want to be, and that's where you create the synergy.
What are the upcoming sectors?
Well, for us, clearly, life sciences and pharma is hugely important for obvious reasons. But more interestingly, when you think about the sheer number of graduates that come out of the universities in the Northwest, we're very well placed around AI, data, financial services. We're the home of graphene, for example. So yes, we may not have the professor that gets published in some incredible journal, but if you're looking to recruit people who are going to do the work on a day-to-day basis, come to the regions, because that's where it's affordable and that's where you can create competitive advantage.
What about these upcoming sectors? Anuj, AI, data, some of the ones that Simon was talking about.
I mean, I totally agree, whether it's Manchester or whether it's London. I mean, those sectors are the emerging sectors. MedTech, EdTech as well is another one. FinTech, obviously, London has an advantage there in terms of FinTech. But we're certainly seeing those are the sectors that are emerging. And I think, I didn't mention earlier on, but technology and telecoms is the most popular sector for Indian companies. And I see that continuing to be the case, that we will see continuing growth, perhaps a shift from the sort of services aspects of technology to more product-based technology and, data mining and that sort of thing, and product-based technology companies.
Yeah. What about technology for you, Anupam? What's the potential for these new age sectors, EdTech, RegTech, and maybe some of the ones closer to your heart?
So we are very future looking in terms of technology, because all our e-bikes and few of the bikes are also all connected. We are all IoT connected. We talk about apps, we talk about integration. In fact, we are also working with one of the Manchester universities to create some new advanced materials for bikes. So technology is very core to us.
Yeah. Murali?
As underlined by Anupam, it is crucial, critical, and the way to go. because in our sector, the training of the analysts to scientists is so very important. So the technology comes in very handy for even long-term, long-distance educations and systems.
One do and one don't, Sally, for an Indian investor looking to come to the UK, or a few do's and don'ts.
I'd say do look at the opportunities, the length and breadth of the UK.
Yeah.
So the key and the core cities and the 4 nations. DIT has offices in Belfast, Cardiff, and Edinburgh, as well as London, and we're setting up a new headquarters in Darlington, which will be on equal terms with London. In terms of don'ts, I'd say don't feel you have to go it alone. DIT is here to help. If you encounter problems, we would love to work with you to support you. Interesting, the tracker provides some fabulous evidence. You know how much civil servants like data. So just to show that the great potential that exists. And so what we can do is link you with local leaders. We can link you into national policymakers. So please reach out if there's anything we can do to help.
Yeah, Simon, do's and don'ts.
Well, the do is echoing the same point, which is the conventional way to think about entering a new market would be perhaps to go through your accountants or your lawyers. But what we're saying today is there are some wonderful public-private partnerships. It's free. It's there, it's here to support you, and one of those is the Manchester India Partnership.
Yeah.
Look us up.
Yeah. Murali, do's and don'ts.
Within my industry, I can speak, have a good market research, understanding before plunging into the market, and don't trigger a price war, or price is not the only criteria.
Yeah. Anupam?
I think the do's for us, our understanding was understanding the local culture first, understanding people, how they embrace products, technologies, what are the moving parts, and that's the part on do. And just not everything will you can cut and copy from other markets and put in any other market which you enter. That's our understanding.
Yeah. Anuj, do's and don'ts.
Yeah, I mean, I echo what's been said. I mean, in terms of do's, do access the free advice and that's available through MIDAS and GIT and other organizations like that. But do also take professional advice and also just make sure you plan for your entry into the country. In terms of don'ts, I would say, and it's perhaps the opposite of what Anupam has said in terms of the culture, because I've seen a number of Indian companies that have come to the UK and have tried to adopt the Indian way of doing things and the Indian culture, and that hasn't quite worked in the UK environment, and there have been major issues that they faced as a result of trying to follow that sort of practice that might work in India but doesn't necessarily work in the UK.
Have you come across that, doing it the Indian way and coming across as a result of that? Have you seen businesses, like-minded businesses, fall into that trap?
I think most companies from any part of the world, for example, when UK companies go back to India, right, they also try and adopt their culture. Right, so I've seen both sides of it, and they're both goods and bads of it. So I think there's much to learn on both sides.
Yeah, Murali?
Fully acknowledge that.
Yeah, you do acknowledge that, yeah.
Yeah, that means we do it the Indian way. We do not stick to 8 to 4, 40 hours a week, 37 hours a week. We for us, achieving the results is the ultimate, and any effort is being taken towards that. Of course, the compliance is not compromised at any time.
Yeah, and you've got the Department of International Trade sitting right next to you, businesses.
Yeah, Sally.
We had the Trade Secretary here earlier. What's your message to the government?
No, absolutely. First of all, I would like to thank Department of International Trade, represented by Sally, because we entered this UK market almost 2 decades ago. But right from that period, they have been quite helpful. I mean, my knowledge goes up to that. But ever since, even today, you said you are setting up your various locations here like Cardiff and Manchester and London. But at the same time, you were extended arm, the FCO offices or High Commission offices, for example, they are present even in Hyderabad. They are very regularly in touch. They are on the ground, right from offering any R&D credits, or they keep keep a very regular bridge of communication, right from initial days of tax dispensation to work visas to various I can name. they are ever willing to be friendly and facilitate more investments here. So that we would like to thank you, and please continue your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally.
What do you have to say to all that, Sally?
So I'm really pleased to hear that the eyes and ears on the ground are paying dividends. It's that local knowledge, isn't it? And our international network is hugely relevant. Of course, our Indian network, massively important. I'm really pleased to hear that. And of course, we're always looking for ideas as to how we can do things better and differently and innovate. So if there's anything on that front, then please do say.
How could you do things better?
Well, clearly we need to make progress on the UK-India free trade agreement.
Yes.
That's potentially the elephant in the room.
What's your hope? I mean, are you a Diwali advocate? Do you think it's going to happen, or is it a bit tight? And what sort of trade deal?
Which month or year it happens isn't so important.
Yes.
It's the right deal that allows the mutual opportunities that are so obviously there in front of both countries.
Is there anything specific you want that you'd be happy if it was part of the deal, and you'd be unhappy if it was?
It sounds faintly ridiculous, but just give a little example. At the moment, if you're an Indian company trying to set up a UK bank account, it's hard work, and we need the regulatory environment to be supportive, just to make less friction. We just need to take friction out of the system, and that clearly is at the heart of what any free trade agreement does.
Is there a real buzz, Sally, within the department that this is achievable, this October deadline to reach an FTA?
I see our new offices very, very busy.
Yes.
A lot of really careful thought and planning and implementation going on. So let's hope so.
Yeah, I know that's a tricky question. I like to ask those. Anuj, final words about the tracker.
Well, I think next year will be our 10th year of producing the tracker, so we're looking to look at the
special
trends,
decade anniversary.
Special decade, yes, yeah, absolutely.
On
the back of this free trade agreement, which personally I think there will be an agreement, but I'm not sure whether it'll cover everything that needs to be covered. And we may have a Brexit type situation.
Oh really? Oh, this is good. We're getting the juicy stuff at the end. What needs to be covered that won't be covered?
Well, I mean, there are many things in relation to financial services, ease of access to markets for lawyers, for example, in India is one of the things that's there. I mean, there's so many things that we have a City UK working group, and we have put forward, just on the financial services sector, probably about 25 different recommendations on the agreement, and we know for sure that all 25 will not be covered in that agreement.
Oh really? All 25? You don't sound very hopeful. Are you in the Lord Marland camp?
No, I'm not. I wouldn't say that, because I did hear him speak. I do think there will be an agreement, but I think
it's going to be
pithy. It'll be like the sort of the first step to the full.
The first step.
Yeah.
There'll be other steps, greater steps.
Yeah.
You're deflating me.
Well,
you're still smiling.
I think there's the realism.
Yeah.
Realism in me suggests that if you think about the EU-India trade agreement, it took 13 years to negotiate, and it's still being negotiated.
It is, isn't it?
Obviously, it's easier in a bilateral situation, but there is so much ground to be covered. And I know that the negotiators have been working extremely hard to try and meet this deadline.
She's not one of the negotiators. Okay, brilliant. Thank you all. It was absolutely fantastic. Big round of applause for Anuj, Anupam, Murali, Sally and Simon. Fantastic chat about doing business in the UK from an Indian perspective. Thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you.